We're in an open marriage now. Handle it.
Some sentences enter your life quietly. Others kick the door in and leave everything broken. For me, it happened on a slow Thursday evening. The takeout was still warm on the table, my dog Milo was asleep by the couch, and the world felt comfortingly ordinary. Then Clara walked in with an energy I couldn't quite read. It was too bright, too sharp, like she was carrying fireworks that no one had asked for. Her smile stretched a little too wide, her steps a little too light for someone coming home from a long shift. I didn't think much of it at first. But then she placed her phone on the table like it was some kind of ceremonial offering. "Ethan," she said, leaning forward, "we're in an open marriage now." "Handle it." My entire body froze. Not because I didn't hear the words, but because of how she said them. Like a weather update, casual, painless, already decided. We had 12 years of history, and she delivered that line like she was reading instructions for assembling a chair. I just blinked, hoping I'd misheard. But Clara continued, her voice chipper, almost relieved. "I've been suffocating. I need freedom. I need space. I love you, but I refuse to limit myself anymore." The calmness in her voice was scarier than any argument we'd ever had. She wasn't conflicted. She wasn't nervous. She was certain. The room shrank around me. The walls pressed in, and even Milo's soft breathing suddenly felt distant. I stared at her in disbelief, my throat tightening. She tilted her head, eyebrows raised. "Ethan, are you even listening?" I swallowed hard. "Yes," I said, because what else could I possibly say? She smiled at my steady tone as if she was mistaking shock for cooperation. "I knew you'd understand eventually," she said. The way she said, "understand," felt like she was congratulating me for finally catching up. Inside, something cracked. Not loudly, but deeply, in a place I'd been ignoring for years. She went on, explaining her truth, her needs, her new lifestyle choices, all while I felt the ground shifting beneath my feet. Every memory we had together, our first dates, cramped apartments, lazy Saturday snacks, late night laughter, it all blurred, like someone smearing wet paint with their palm. I could barely process anything except one single truth. She'd already left the marriage. She just forgot to tell me until now. I didn't argue. I didn't beg. I didn't fight. Instead, something quieter rose up in me, clarity. I stood up slowly, grabbed my jacket, and walked toward the door. Milo barked softly, confused. I knelt down, scratched behind his ears, and whispered, "It's okay, boy." Clara watched me with an expression that wasn't fear or regret. It was just mild curiosity. "Where are you going?" she asked. "For air," I said. And for myself, I walked out without slamming the door. The night was cold, but for the first time since her words had shattered our living room, I felt awake. I drove aimlessly through familiar streets, passing the park where we used to walk, the cafe where she'd laugh at my terrible jokes, the bookstore we spent Sunday mornings in. None of it hurt the way I expected it to. Instead, it all felt like a life someone else had lived, a version of me who did and yet know the truth sitting in my apartment with a glowing screen and a casual decree. We in an open marriage now. Before the night ended, I made a vow to myself I would not be dragged into someone else's rewritten story. If she wanted an open life, she could have it. But she would not take my dignity with her. I spent that night at a quiet overlook, the entire city glittering below me, completely unaware that a man's life had just fractured cleanly down the middle. The sunrise didn't fix anything, but it did make one thing crystal clear. Clara had stopped choosing me long before she announced her new lifestyle. The next morning, I drove to my friend Lucas's apartment. He opened the door, took one look at me, and just pulled me into a hug. "Man, you look wrecked," he whispered. I let out a short, broken laugh. "I feel wrecked." We sat at his kitchen table with steaming coffee between us. I described everything, not dramatically, not angrily, just truthfully. Clara's certainty. Her rehearsed lines, her complete dismissal of our vows. Lucas listened quietly, his jaw tightening with every detail. When I finished, he leaned back and let out a slow breath. "She's not your wife anymore, Ethan," he said gently. "Not the version you married?" "She walked away long before yesterday." His words hurt, but they also fit perfectly. Over the next few days, life became strangely simple. There were no fights, no emotional tug-of-war, no begging for answers, just quiet detachment. I walked Milo every morning. I reconnected with friends I'd drifted from. I sat on park benches without checking my phone every 5 minutes. I even dusted off my old sketch notebooks, the ones I stopped using because marriage had consumed all my time. Life didn't suddenly bloom into happiness, but small pockets of peace started appearing, like light breaking through cracks. Meanwhile, Clara didn't text, didn't call, didn't even ask where I was. When I went home midweek to pick up some essentials, I noticed something. Her suitcase was gone. Only a short note remained on the kitchen counter, we redoing what's best for both of us. I stared at the words for a long time without feeling anything. Then I folded the note, put it aside, and finished packing my things. I wasn't abandoned. I wasn't replaced. I wasn't betrayed. I was released. Released from a version of love that only existed in my memories. Released from a marriage that only one of us was still honoring. Released from carrying all the weight alone. My friends noticed the shift. "You look lighter," Lucas said one evening. "Like something finally came off your shoulders." He wasn't wrong. The sadness still lived in me, but it no longer controlled every breath I took. I wasn't trying to fix Clara. I wasn't trying to follow her. I wasn't waiting for her to come back. For the first time in years, I was living for myself. It happened 2 weeks later. I stepped into a small cafe for my morning coffee, the same one Clara and I used to visit on lazy Sundays. I wasn't even thinking about her, until I saw her standing near the counter, smiling politely at the barista. For a split second, my heart tightened with a familiar memory. But then something unexpected happened. The feeling passed, quietly, naturally. She noticed me and gave a soft, practiced smile. "Hi, Ethan." "Hi," I said. My voice was calm and steady. We held each other's gaze for a moment. Two people who once shared an entire life, now standing like gentle strangers. She waited, maybe expecting a conversation, an accusation, an emotional spill, but I simply nodded and walked past her, not out of anger, not out of pride, but because there was nothing left that needed to be said. Our chapter was over without bitterness, without dramatics, without any unfinished sentences. That evening, I sat on my balcony with Milo at my feet, watching the city glow. The breeze was cool, the sky streaked with faint sunset colors, and a realization settled into me like warm light. Loving yourself is sometimes the quietest revolution. Clara hadn't broken me. She had freed me. Unintentionally, abruptly, painfully, but undeniably. I wasn't living in reaction to her choices anymore. I wasn't grieving a marriage that didn't exist. I wasn't shrinking myself to fit her desires. I was building something new brick by brick, day by day, breath by breath. A next chapter without her. A life I hadn't allowed myself to imagine before. A future filled not with fear, but with possibility. And as the city hummed below and Milo curled up against my leg, I whispered to myself, I didn't lose her. I found me. And that truth, quiet, steady, and unwavering, carried me into the rest of my life. Thanks for watching. If this story resonated with you, consider subscribing for more. See you next time.